listening to Inside iOS Dev, a show about real-world programming. Here with your host, Andrew Rohn.
And Alex Bush.
And today we're going to talk about pair programming, our experience, what we think about it, and
if
there you go.
If it's good for you or not.
If it's good for you or not. We like it. Hint.
So, Andrew, pair programming. That sounds... What is it?
Pair programming is basically two people programming at the same time
on the same machine.
On the same keyboard. It's really hard. You have to learn to sync up. So usually I do my left hand and you do the right hand, and so the only thing is
we juggle with the mouse, right?
Yeah, and like we sometimes argue about this, like who gets the space bar. Of
course,
but anyways,
the most important one.
No, but actually, pair programming basically is two people. They're basically working on the same programming task at the same time. They will share a screen. They don't have to share the same physical screen. It could be two different monitors, but they're looking at the same content.
Or it could be remote.
Or it could be remote.
Option,
yeah, exactly. But they're basically looking at the same code, right? Mm-hmm. One person is writing code. That person is called the driver. Right. And then the other person is kind of observing and analyzing and looking ahead and kind of providing input while the other person drives. And they're called the... co-pilot?
Something like that. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Right.
They're just the observer, I guess.
Right.
But observer might sound too passive, but they're there to provide guidance and just kind of make sure everything's going good.
And this is a opposite technique from doing it solo, obviously, right?
Yeah, the typical way you think of it is just a programmer by himself working on a problem by himself. Right. Yeah.
But then, if you think about it, at some point, when programmers work solo, they still need to collaborate at some point on code reviews, on discussions about architecture and the problem itself, and the namespace, all of that, right?
Right.
So that inevitably happens, and you need to, if you work solo, you need to spend time doing it anyway. But benefits of pair programming is that, you do it right here and there, so you get instant code review already. You don't have to allocate time for that after pairing session. It's better productivity and code quality, right? Because you have two eyes looking at the same piece of code.
You actually have two pairs of eyes, not two eyes.
Yes.
Well, unless they're one eye, legally blind. They're both legally blind in one eye.
See, we're covering all the
edge cases. That's what programmers do.
Right. But yes, thank you. So two pairs of eyes.
Or 4 eyes.
4 eyes.
Yeah.
Looking at the same code and thinking about the same problem, because same thing, covering all the edge cases. Doing it solo, you might not think of some specific scenario, right, that the other person actually have.
Yes.
And sometimes maybe you do, and that scenario is actually not relevant. So again, that discussion right here and there, invaluable. Really, it's so useful to have. And another one is, one of the benefits is knowledge exchange. That's an immensely awesome thing, in my opinion, because you have two developers with two perspectives that might align or might differ, and you know something that I don't know. I know there's other technique that you don't know. And while we program, we will exchange that knowledge, because thinking about solutions, it comes up.
Yeah, and I think also a part of that knowledge exchange is you get rid of silos. So there's not the guy who works on the one thing who, if he decides to quit one day or he gets ran over, then you're not completely screwed.
Right.
Exactly. There's that knowledge exchange. You're not developing these silos.
And
I think one thing I want to do, though, is I kind of want to be the devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
So just to reveal our hands here, we both like pair programming. We're in favor of it. So this is our perspective. And we know this is a controversial topic. We know that there are a lot of people who don't like pair programming. We do, and so we're biased, and we're just going to be upfront about it. But I'm going to go ahead and play devil's advocate. So the points we just made, the instant code review. But we don't code review, man. We're a startup. We're just pumping out code. What is that? Why is that a benefit?
If you're a startup, if you actually, hope to live long enough as a company, as a startup, longer than period of your MVP, then definitely you should code review, because it's gonna all fall apart in a few months if you don't. But if you think your company is not gonna be around in a few months, sure, go shoot from the hip, I guess.
And the better productivity and the code quality, again, like, I'm just trying to ship features. I guess yeah, you're right. If I want the code to last a year from now and not just be some frail thing, and I expect the company to be here longer than a year, then I guess that would cover that.
And another thing, just to add to that, think about what is the essence of shipping features. It is changing code, right? That's how you ship features. And what makes code easily changeable? Well, good architecture, code reviews, the benefits that pair programming kind of gives you.
Okay. With knowledge exchange though, I feel like I get in a flow state, when I'm working alone, and I just don't want people to bother me. Like I'm doing my thing, and this is like my part of the code. I own this, and I work good by myself. I don't need people getting in my way and me having to share knowledge with them.
That might be the case where your personality is just not, it's not a good fit for pair programming. That's actually a legit case for not doing it. So,
okay, I am beginning to be convinced. Okay,
great.
we're done with the role play section.
Yes.
Okay.
But to be fair, there are disadvantages to pair programming, and one of the disadvantages I personally found when I joined Vanilla was it was exhausting, at least at first. Like, just physically, I was getting so tired after a whole day of pair programming, because it's different pace, right? It's different. Like, when you work solo, you can take a break whenever you want, right? Or I can do my Pomodoro technique or stuff like that, right?
Right.
And when you pair, you can't really, do that. And you can't really slack that much either, because there's, this other person working with you, right? They might not necessarily say anything, but you would think that they would think that you're,
slacking.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's one for, that I noticed, one of the disadvantages, until I got used to it. So it's not like that, don't get me wrong, it's not like that all the time, right? But for some time at first it was.
There's an adjustment period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other disadvantages?
It takes a certain personality type. You're basically having to kind of talk with someone and negotiate things, and just, and be right next to someone working for long periods of times. That could be stressful. You might disagree with them. So you have to have the personality, and I think,
and communicate well also.
Yeah, you have to be able to communicate well. And I think, there's that stereotype of programmers kind of not always exactly being the most, the best communicators, or wanting to spend a lot of time in close conversation with someone. They kind of maybe are more introverted, so it might be, draining for them.
Right.
So that's definitely a disadvantage. You gotta have the right personality.
Yeah, and another one could be speed, right? Where, when you have two people working on one problem, they're more efficient for that specific problem, but they could have been doing solo two different problems, working on different things at the same time, right? So that is, in a way, for some teams, a disadvantage, right? Where
Right.
you need to move very fast. Like, I guess that might make a case for that startup example, right?
Yeah, I would say gross time, in terms of pair programming, gross time, like net time, actually goes down, but the kind of immediate speed, you definitely experience longer times to develop things as a pair team. But that's because, like you said, two people are working on the same problem. So it's kind of obvious if two people working on the same problem versus one person working on one and one person working on the other in parallel, they can both get those problems done at the same time. They deliver more. That's the immediate effect that you notice. But I think net, it's shorter because you're producing higher quality code that's being code reviewed on the fly. And so in the end, you're gonna produce more maintainable code that you're not going to be trying to having to fix bugs on all the time and having to refactor. And hopefully, because you're pair programming, you're implementing better design, which means the code is easier to change. So in the end, you end up saving time.
Right, and you could also think about it this way: when you work solo or like split up, right? Then each individual runs a sprint in a way. But when you pair program, you both run a marathon together. But you go farther with a marathon rather than with a sprint. Or with a sprint, you get exhausted faster.
Right. But I guess at a startup, you might need a sprint at that time. That might be fair. Where the company is at.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it also might be that, you sprinted and it was paying off, but now you're realizing that you're not able to keep up to that pace, or it's not paying off well enough, or the company is getting a little more mature, so you need a more mature process or something, and so you need to change your pace.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you could have actually hit that milestone time-wise, right? And now you need to build a solid foundation, so start pairing. But yeah, this is our pair programming experience essentially, and the main takeaways from that are that figure out your cadence.
Right.
Working with other person is you both have different preferences on how often to take breaks, what to focus on first, all of that, right? So, be empathetic and try to figure it out. That would pay off.
Right. There's definitely an adjustment period. So figure out the cadence that works for both of you.
Then another one is that not every problem needs pairing, right? So
this is our opinion, at least.
Right. Yeah. So you had a few examples of that, I think, lately where pairing didn't make sense.
Yeah, I think. Recently this week there was like 6 different tickets that I saw that were just basically bug fixes and UI updates. Like, we had a ticket for updating the copy, and I don't think it's going to take 2 people to change the string from saying,
continue
to like
next.
Do this thing or something like that. Like, there's not much to go back and forth there about, and much to be gained in terms of pair. So that made sense for me to just, okay, I'm just going to do this on my own, and then Alex later can, really quickly double check it as a code review later, and we're going to save time, and I think that was the right decision to make.
Right.
Yeah. But I guess as another example, though, we might want to talk about an example of when we saw something, we're like, oh, that's definitely something we need to pair on.
Yeah. So what we found ourselves doing quite often, looking at the sprint ahead, or at least the week ahead.
Right.
And kind of nitpicking, this problem looks and feels that it's going to be a big or very important one. We want to pair on that and actually, do a more thorough coding there, right?
Right.
And other problems are, again, right, might be those bug fixes that don't necessarily need 2 people doing it. Mm-hmm. Another takeaway is that even if you don't pair program in your team, still think of all the steps and things that you're doing while you pair programming, such as code review, such as knowledge exchange, and I guess those 2 specifically. You still will be doing that, right? Even if you work solo, you still need to collaborate at some point to kind of look at each other's code. Well, hopefully, ideally, right? If you do that at your company, and you still need to exchange knowledge about the system, right? So if someone worked on that specific part of the application and knows everything about
The networking layer.
right, or like this feature sharing links or something feature, right?
Right.
Then you don't want to have that one person to have all the knowledge about that feature or about that side of the application. You still need to have that code exchange, knowledge exchange somehow. So that means if your developers are solo, they need to allocate time for that somehow.
Right. Well, one benefit that I want to add in here that's kind of a side benefit that I just remembered is I feel like, and this is again probably comes down to the personality differences of people, but I feel like one thing is if you get along with the person that you pair with, I feel like there's a boost to morale, because sometimes I do like to work on my own, and I feel like I actually do learn more and I am more productive on my own. But sometimes, I just want to be with someone else, and I just get tired of just kind of working on my own a lot. And to work with someone else can be like a break of just kind of being by myself in my head. Just it can get, I guess lonely is a strong word, but it can get lonely. So it's nice I think there's a benefit if you're. I wouldn't say I'm an extrovert, but if you need some of that interaction, it's nice to take a break and work with someone, and kind of have an outlet of social interaction. I feel like I will, after pairing with someone, my morale might be a little boosted because I was probably needing some social interaction and just taking a break from just being by myself all day.
Right, and that kind of goes back to that personality type, right? You need to have a certain type of personality to actually pair program effectively, or even need it, right?
Right.
Always or from time to time, depends. And another takeaway, I guess the final takeaway, pick your thing, right? Figure out what works for you.
To pair program or to not pair program, that is the question.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah, so I think it's dependent on the organization that you're in. It's dependent on the individuals within that organization, their personality types. It's dependent on the problem that your organization is solving. So,
and where you at as a company, right? You might be in an MVP stage where you can't, or you might be later stage where you should be doing it.
Right. So find out what works for you. We're not going to be dogmatic and say you must pair a program. It's different for every situation.
Right. Although we do like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is it for that episode. Thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah.
Please like, review, rate.
Yeah, everything. All those positive things. If you're going to give us a thumbs down, don't do it. Just turn off the computer and walk away. Contact us at Inside iOS Dev. We love getting feedback. We love getting phone calls.
Of course.
That's probably one of our listeners. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
God damn it.